then all of a sudden, this arm comes out. An arm comes out. And he just started firing immediately.
For nearly 3 decades, Tupac's murder has been wrapped in mystery, rumors, theories, and dead ends. But now, 50 Cent claims he's leaked exclusive footage tied to that night in Las Vegas. And what it shows could completely rewrite everything we thought we knew about Tupac's final moments. The night that changed hip-hop forever. Tupac Shakur, one of the most influential rappers in hip-hop history, was fatally shot in a drive-by attack on September 7, 1996, in Las Vegas, Nevada, following a Mike Tyson boxing match. The MGM Grand Casino was electric that night. Mike Tyson had just delivered a devastating knockout, and the who's who of the entertainment world were filing out of the arena, drunk on adrenaline and the spectacle of violence they had just witnessed. Among them was Tupac Amaru Shakur, a man whose very name carried the weight of revolution. You see, most people don't realize that Tupac wasn't just some random stage name. This was a young man who had been born into struggle, who had been molded by resistance, and who had transformed that revolutionary fire into music that would define an entire generation. At just 25 years old, he had already achieved more than most artists accomplish in a lifetime: multiple platinum albums, critically acclaimed film roles, a cultural impact that transcended race, class, and geography. But on that September night, all of that brilliance, all of that potential, all of that fire, it was about to be extinguished in a hail of gunfire on a Las Vegas street corner. Frank Alexander was Tupac's bodyguard. He was there that night, walking alongside the man he had sworn to protect. And his account of what happened paints a picture so vivid, so haunting, that it feels like you're standing right there on that sweltering pavement. But here's where the story takes a dark turn. Here's where the details start to feel less like coincidence and more like calculated orchestration. Let that sink in for a moment. The bodyguards, the men whose entire job was to protect Tupac Shakur with their lives, were specifically instructed for the first time ever to leave their weapons behind on the very night their client would be murdered. The fight at the MGM Grand ended quickly, brutally. Tyson knocked out Bruce Seldon in what felt like seconds, and in the chaos of the aftermath, something happened that would set the stage for tragedy. That little guy was Orlando Anderson, a member of the Southside Compton Crips. The Crips retaliated against the beating of Anderson by shooting Tupac. Anderson was the shooter, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. After the altercation in the casino lobby, after the beating that would prove to be the spark that ignited the powder keg, the entourage made their way to Suge Knight's house. They changed clothes. They prepared for what was supposed to be a night of celebration at Club 662. The convoy made its way back toward the Las Vegas Strip. Tupac was riding shotgun in Suge Knight's black BMW, music blasting, spirits high despite the earlier confrontation. They had no idea that somewhere in that sea of cars following them, death was riding along. The police interaction ended. The convoy continued its journey toward Club 6062. They turned right off the strip onto Flamingo Road, and then they stopped at a red light at the intersection of Flamingo and Koval Lane. What happened next would be replayed in the minds of millions for decades to come. And then the unthinkable. 4 bullets struck Shakur, leading to internal bleeding and respiratory failure despite emergency surgery. The sound of gunfire shattered the night. The white Cadillac peeled away into the darkness, and Tupac Shakur lay bleeding in the passenger seat of that black BMW, his life draining away with every passing second. 6 days later, on September 13th, 1996, Tupac Shakur was pronounced dead. He was 25 years old. He succumbed to his injuries 6 days later on September 13th, 1996, at the age of 25. And for the next 27 years, the case would remain officially unsolved. Theories would multiply like wildfire. Names would be whispered in dark corners. But justice? Justice remained elusive, hidden in the shadows of one of the most complex and conspiracy-laden murder investigations in American history until now. The evidence that shattered the silence. For almost 3 decades, the murder of Tupac Shakur existed in a twilight zone between cold case and conspiracy theory. The case remained unsolved for decades, fueling numerous conspiracy theories, including gang rivalries between the Crips and Bloods, East Coast-West Coast rap feuds, and potential involvement from figures in the music industry. Everyone had a theory. Everyone thought they knew who did it, but proving it, that was another matter entirely. The East Coast-West Coast rivalry had poisoned the well of hip-hop, turning what should have been artistic competition into something far more sinister. And understanding that rivalry is crucial to understanding why Tupac was targeted.
basically what I was trying to do with it was make people realize, take them back to that time, 95, and take them back to that time when that beef was happening, and make them realize like how ridiculous the beef was in the first place, that it ever came to that level.
The theories about who killed Tupac have ranged from the plausible to the absolutely outlandish. Some pointed fingers at Orlando Anderson, the Crips gang member who had been beaten by Tupac's entourage at the MGM Grand just hours before the shooting. Others suspected that Suge Knight himself had orchestrated the murder, citing the fact that Knight owed Tupac a lot of money. Some accounts point up to $10 million. Tupac's mother, Afeni Shakur, backs up the theory as she sued Death Row Records in 1997 for mishandling her son's funds and withholding millions. The financial motive was there, the opportunity was there, and the suspicious circumstances, the unarmed bodyguards, the strange positioning of cars at the traffic light, the calm phone call Suga made immediately after the casino brawl, all of it painted a troubling picture. But Frank Alexander, the man who was actually there, who actually saw what happened, disputes this theory vehemently. But for decades, all of this remained in the realm of speculation. Witness statements contradicted each other. Key figures died under mysterious circumstances. Orlando Anderson himself was shot to death in May 1998, taking whatever secrets he held to the grave. 6 months after Tupac's death, in March 1997, Christopher Wallace, aka Biggie Smalls, was fatally shot in a drive-by shooting in Los Angeles by an unknown assailant. It seemed like the truth would remain buried forever. And then came 50 Cent. In late 2025, 50 Cent executive produced a multi-episode Netflix documentary series that delves into scandals and allegations surrounding key figures in the 1990s rap scene, with a particular focus on the circumstances leading to Shakur's murder and related events. Curtis 50 Cent Jackson is not someone who backs down from controversy. His entire career has been built on confrontation, on speaking uncomfortable truths, on putting himself directly in the line of fire, sometimes literally. And when it came to Tupac's murder, he decided it was time to pull back the curtain. The series, released on December 2nd, 2025, incorporates interviews, archival materials, and previously unreleased audio recordings to re-examine the case. But here's what makes this documentary different from all the YouTube speculation and podcast theories that have circulated for years. 50 Cent promoted the project as a pursuit of truth, stating in interviews that he acquired sensitive materials over nearly 2 years of development, including tapes from law enforcement interrogations, law enforcement interrogation tapes. Think about that for a moment. This isn't some armchair detective piecing together internet rumors. This is actual evidence from actual investigations that had been locked away for decades. The documentary highlights testimonies from industry insiders and law enforcement, including former Bad Boy Records co-founder Kirk Burroughs, who alleges that envy and competitive pressures in the rap industry contributed to the escalation of violence that culminated in Shakur's death. Burroughs claims that certain executives pushed for confrontations, such as encouraging travel to high-risk areas like Los Angeles amid known threats, which indirectly facilitated the 1996 Las Vegas shooting. This is explosive. An insider from one of the major record labels of the era, pointing fingers at the decision-making that led to tragedy. But perhaps the most damning element of the documentary is the audio. Another focal point is audio from police interviews with Keith D, where he details the drive-by execution, naming accomplices like Orlando Anderson and describing the weapon as a .40 caliber Glock pistol fired from the back seat of the Cadillac. Dwayne Keith D. Davis, Orlando Anderson's uncle and a former Southside Compton Crips gang leader, had been talking for years, in a 2019 memoir, in interviews, in what seemed like an almost pathological need to confess. And now, those confessions are at the center of an actual murder trial. In 2023, Dwayne Keith D. Davis, a former Southside Compton Crips gang leader and uncle of suspect Orlando Anderson, was arrested and charged with murder in connection to the shooting, based on his own admissions in interviews and a 2019 memoir where he described orchestrating the hit as retaliation for a prior altercation. After 27 years of silence, someone is finally facing justice. Retired LAPD detective Greg Kading, who investigated the case, provides commentary on these recordings, corroborating details like the gang-motivated retaliation following an assault on Anderson at the MGM Grand earlier that night. The pieces are finally falling into place. The assault at the casino, the gang affiliations, the white Cadillac, the .40 caliber Glock, it's all connected. And 50 Cent's documentary lays it all out with the kind of clarity that decades of speculation never achieved. Now, I need to address something important here. When people hear 50 Cent leaks footage of Tupac's murder, many assume we're talking about actual video of the shooting itself. That's not quite accurate. The documentary does not feature any direct footage of the murder itself. Instead, it relies on testimonial evidence and reconstructions to build its narrative. However, what has emerged is something arguably more mysterious. One widely discussed element is a leaked 14-second grainy video clip from 2025, purportedly showing an open casket in a mortuary with a body resembling Shakur, surrounded by candles and mourners. This footage has sent shockwaves through the internet. Why? Because of one crucial detail. Shakur was reportedly cremated immediately after death on September 14, 1996, with no public viewing. So how does footage of an open casket viewing exist if there was never supposed to be one? This footage, allegedly from a 1990s analog tape, depicts tattoos and a setting consistent with Los Angeles funeral homes of the era, but lacks visible surgical wounds, raising questions about the official cremation timeline. Experts note it could indicate a private viewing occurred, contradicting privacy requests from Shakur's mother, Afeni, but it doesn't identify the shooter or motive. And 50 Cent's connection to Tupac's legacy runs deeper than just being a fellow rapper seeking the truth.
There is any way that me and him connected was just being able to take what's going on in our lives and be able to put it in words. And I think that's one great thing that Tupac did, was he set a standard. Like, the average fan who's listening to music is like, if you don't make me care about your life, I'm not going to care about you. So that's what you have to do, is make them feel like there may be something that you're going through, and that person is going through the same thing.
Eminem articulated something profound there. Tupac wasn't just rapping, he was translating pain into poetry, struggle into story, and that's something that resonated with 50 Cent on a fundamental level.
I did a joint called Realest Killers. It was me and Tupac. I took Tupac vocals. Actually, producer Red Spider had produced the track around the vocals because we had the instrumental. The production that was on the track, you know, it's a little dated because Pac had recorded it, you know, so long ago that we redid the production. And it was exciting. Like, I enjoy that record more than I enjoy some of my solo records. I got a chance to work with him.
For 50 Cent, this documentary isn't just about exposing the truth, it's about honoring a legacy, about finishing what was left unfinished, about ensuring that the man who inspired a generation doesn't remain just another cold case file gathering dust in some evidence locker. The trial that could finally deliver justice, 29 years. That's how long the world has waited for someone, anyone, to stand trial for the murder of Tupac Shakur. And now, finally, that moment is approaching. Dwayne Keith D. Davis, a former Southside Compton Crips gang leader, faces charges of first-degree murder with a deadly weapon in connection to the 1996 drive-by shooting death of Tupac Shakur in Las Vegas. Let me give you the full picture of what's happening in that Clark County courtroom, because this trial represents something that many thought would never happen. Arrested in September 2023 after years of investigation, Davis has been held without bail at the Clark County Detention Center. Prosecutors allege Davis provided the gun and directed the shooters, though he was not the triggerman. This is crucial to understand. Keith D isn't being accused of pulling the trigger. That was allegedly his nephew, Orlando Anderson, who died in 1998. But under Nevada law, orchestrating a murder makes you just as culpable as the person who fires the fatal shots. The trial is being heard in Clark County District Court under Judge Carly Kearney, with Davis pleading not guilty. Of course, nothing about this case has ever been simple. As of December 2025, the trial has been delayed multiple times, most recently rescheduled to begin on August 10, 2026. Why the delays? Davis's defense attorney, Robert Draskovich, requested the delay citing the discovery of voluminous new material that requires extensive review, describing the evidence as overwhelming in volume. This marks the third postponement, reflecting the complexity of a case involving nearly 3 decades of evidence, including audio recordings, witness statements, and forensic details from the original investigation. The prosecution has built what appears to be a formidable case. The prosecution's evidence heavily relies on Davis's self-incriminating statements, including a 2008 proffer agreement with police, where he detailed the events under immunity for other crimes, though that protection does not extend to murder charges. Key elements include descriptions descriptions of the white Cadillac used in the shooting, the .40 caliber Glock firearm, and the roles of accomplices like Anderson, who was killed in an unrelated gang incident in 1998. Additional materials, such as ballistic reports linking the weapon to the crime scene and timelines of gang rivalries, form the backbone of the case. But the defense isn't going down without a fight. The defense argues that Davis's statements were exaggerated for book sales, and that no direct physical evidence ties him to the murder. They have also highlighted health concerns for the 62-year-old defendant who has battled cancer, though bail requests have been denied multiple times due to flight risk assessments. There's also been significant legal maneuvering around what evidence will be admissible. In late October 2025, Davis's attorneys filed a motion to suppress evidence seized during a July 17, 2023, search of his Henderson, Nevada home. The motion argued that the nighttime execution of the warrant at 9:44 p.m. violated Nevada revised statutes, NRS 179, which generally requires searches between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., unless exigent circumstances are justified in the affidavit. The defense contended there were no such urgencies, given the 27-year gap since the murder, and sought to exclude items like computers, electronic storage devices, cell phones, writings, books, and videos related to the Tupac shooting. This motion was ultimately withdrawn, but it highlights ongoing disputes over evidence admissibility that may intersect with the newly disclosed materials. And here's where 50 Cent's documentary becomes relevant to the legal proceedings. Public discourse, particularly on social media, has linked the trial delay and new evidence to recent documentaries exploring the Tupac case, with some users speculating that fresh revelations from these projects prompted additional disclosures. The timing is impossible to ignore. The documentary drops in December 2025. The trial gets pushed to August 2026. New, voluminous evidence suddenly appears. However, official court statements attribute the postponement solely to the need for thorough review of the prosecution's materials, without referencing external influences. The stakes couldn't be higher. If convicted, Davis could face life in prison without parole, given the murder charge enhanced by gang affiliation and use of a deadly weapon under Nevada law. However, the case's age poses challenges, including deceased witnesses and faded memories, potentially leading to acquittal or a plea deal. Legal experts note that while Davis's admissions are damning, the lack of eyewitness identification from the shooting itself could create reasonable doubt. But beyond the legal proceedings, what does all of this mean for Tupac's legacy? What does it mean for a generation that grew up with his music, his message, his prophetic warnings about his own mortality? There's something haunting about a man who knew his time was limited, who raced against the clock to leave behind as much of himself as possible. Tupac wasn't just making music, he was building a monument, a testament, a legacy that he somehow knew would outlive him. And perhaps that's the real significance of what 50 Cent has done with this documentary. It's not just about solving a murder, it's about honoring a legacy. It's about refusing to let the truth be buried, along with the man who demanded truth from everyone around him. Tupac was named after a revolutionary who died fighting against oppression, and in his own way, Tupac continued that fight through his music, through his activism, through his refusal to stay silent about the injustices he witnessed. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.